Hello, friends. It's Chapo.
He needs to come down.
Okay. So the idea is...
Give me the worst case scenario.
Okay, the idea is by
He needs
the
some
end...
orange slices.
Okay. The idea is by the end of Super Tuesday, he's built up such a big pledged delegate margin that it doesn't matter if it becomes a one-on-one and there's like $500 billion in negative attack ads for a Stop Bernie movement, because that lead will have been... that lead he's accrued will have been so strong that he will start to look like the presumptive nominee at that point.
Yes.
Much in a similar way that Hillary Clinton accrued such a strong lead by the middle of the primaries that it didn't really matter that much if Bernie was, pulling out some big victories, which he did in places like Michigan and Wisconsin.
Yes.
That's okay. That's the best case scenario where he accrues so many delegates that it will be impossible.
Yep.
Even Bloomberg with $50 billion, it will literally will not matter because he
And
will
by
be
the way,
the nominee on the first vote.
If Bernie really does become the presumptive nominee, there's actually a huge danger in Bloomberg if he's still running as a Democrat, going hard negatively against the guy who is now the presumptive nominee. I mean, the Democrats do care about that shit. Like the idea of they hate the idea of going after someone who they think is going to be the one that they're
really.
I mean, like
They would make an exception for fucking Sanders.
No, I think
because he's not a Democrat.
I'm talking about like non-8% psychopaths.
Okay.
I'm saying that a lot of the people who maybe had mild dislike of Bernie because he stayed in too long. I think that what they actually are serious in that because they want Democrats to win. They don't want criticism of Democrats, especially
they want it to be a coronation.
Exactly. And so a significant chunk, I think, of people who might be amenable to the negative stuff is like, I didn't like him either, but this is it. It would really just be the people who are drawing a salary from their connection to the Democratic establishment who would still have
run this out. The best case scenario for Bernie, it's Super Tuesday.
Give me the worst case. I'm too fucking high right now.
Let me just finally give you the best case, which is that Biden hobbles along. Bloomberg insists on spending, hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe Tom Steyer is in the mix too, just still spending money for whatever reason, just to hang out, make friends. This is vacation for him. This is like a singles cruise, and Bernie has just accrued so much momentum, has just such a lead in the national polling that it doesn't really matter, and he just triumphs over divided opposition. The worst case scenario, I think, would be now that we know that Bloomberg's stated intention is I'm going to spend all the money and I'm going to be there no matter what fucking happens. He's got a plan and he's going to stick to it. The worst case is probably Bloomberg becomes the head of a Stop Bernie movement after Super Tuesday, and it becomes a 1v1 contest where like all of the anti-Bernie holdouts coalesce around him, and also he's also buying every mayor in the country.
Yes, he has
been for years.
He has been spending so much money on what are basically legalized bribes. To every Democratic politician in this country. Beto O'Rourke showed up at a Bloomberg event last night, courting him. Stacey Abrams has not endorsed him, but has done events with,
he
took his money. She's taken his money.
Just got the endorsements of the mayors of D.C. and San Francisco. And is about to get it. It's looking like he's going to get it from Chicago as well.
I think, honestly, good. This is the niacin I need, because this is what I'm saying. We need to be ready for this shit, because it's definitely going to happen.
Is that they cannot do it through delegates. They cannot do it on a first ballot. It would have to be a coup at the convention.
Can you explain what that would mean?
Yeah.
What it would mean is you have your first ballot and no one gets to the requisite number. That means you got to vote again. Once the voting begins on the second ballot, because of the deal that Bernie struck with our DNC after 2016, the superdelegates, i.e. delegates who are allowed into the convention as in their status as either bigwigs in the party, union leaders and stuff, or elected officials. They are called superdelegates because previously to this year, after the McGovern reforms, until from 72 to now, they could vote in the first ballot for whoever they wanted.
Right.
Which is why when Hillary and Bernie ran against each other, they would have like the delegate totals on the pictures on the newspaper, and even before the votes started, they would always have her up 200 because they already gave her announced endorsed superdelegate, which is of course propaganda, but whatever. But and that was one thing that was always over the head of Bernie in 2016 is that those superdelegates were already built into Clinton's numbers, even though nobody they're not from any caucuses or primaries. So if there's a second ballot in Milwaukee, those superdelegates, according to the new rules, can vote. they will overwhelmingly vote for a predetermined and coordinated person who would, in order to make it look not as terrible as possible, most likely be the second highest delegate holder, which in this scenario would be Bloomberg.
Okay, so that the anti-Bernie movement, you're talking about the entire Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like the entire Democratic Party, the entire media, and like, let's be honest, really the owners of this country overall.
Correct, yes.
Looking at what his movement represents and like that, he takes seriously the shit he says.
Yes.
Even if they can stop him from doing all the things he wants to do politically in Congress or with the Supreme Court or whatever,
he will take over
just
their
the
party.
idea of someone who actually believes what he says about taking away their wealth and power, that they are against him. And the way they're going to try to stop him, like their ultimate failsafe, is Bloomberg, and it is to set up a second vote at a convention where he would be the guy.
Yes.
And then that would split the party in two and stop him from being the nominee.
So that is the one thing that militates against this happening. I think the main thing that militates against that is I really do think Bernie's going to get the delegates. He will have enough for it not to matter. But if it does matter, the thing that might stay their hand is that if they do this, it will, as you said, split the party. It will guarantee a loss to Trump and some third-party person getting like 10 to 15% of the vote, maybe Tulsi Gabbard. And they would have to be willing to allow that to happen. And they might. They might decide it's worth it. But they might chicken out because these are Democrats we're talking about.
By the way, though, if they do that, it is everyone, certainly mine and anyone who listens to this show, your responsibility to not vote or vote for the third party in that election.
Absolutely. No, the Democrats must be boycotted completely.
And this is the thing we were thinking about like the other night. Like if they do that, this is the nightmare scenario that I'm talking about, which is a real possibility. Absolutely. As we've just discussed. Right? It's almost win-win.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, like the entire point of this show, and like we really feel being here in Iowa, it is the culmination of a long time on this show.
A long march.
That we got started at this exact point in the 2016 election, Bernie or bust, Bernie or die. And we've been that way ever since. We've never, ever raved that. And like what that means is like either the Democratic Party can, through a popular Democratic movement, can be taken over, defeated entirely, taken over, and brought to unity on our terms. That's what the bend the knee comment was about.
Yes.
That there is no unity with these people or cooperation with them until they are defeated.
Yes. No unity without fealty.
Exactly. And like if we can do that, then like we have a huge opportunity to change this country.
Yep.
If they choose the other option, which is to split the party, then it should be destroyed.
That's going to destroy it. It'll be the first. They'll become the Whigs, and they will lose that fight, and that's good. That is a step forward. Either way, Bernie winning or the party breaking in half is a step forward, is a progressive step worth supporting. And what I get excited about is because when I think this through, those are the two most likely options I can imagine.
And this is why like a lot of liberals and like people with Democrat brain get so angry at Bernie, and they always say, oh, he's not a Democrat. Sometimes like I think he hates our party more than them, or like he just wants to destroy the Democratic Party. I know Bernie or his people would never admit to this, but the reagoing this movement is so important is because it is a gun aimed at the heart of the Democratic Party, and it is a hostage situation. And either they're going to allow us to take over the direction of this party, or it will be destroyed.
Yes,
and we will destroy it.
And what a lot of actually ultra lefts, in this addition to smug centrists, will say is, you say that, but I guarantee you that if that happens, Bernie will endorse Bloomberg. And you know what? I bet he would. And he would refuse to head a third party ticket. But guess what? At that point, once they steal it for Bernie, God, I love him like nobody in the world, but his time is over.
Yeah.
He is no longer relevant. Bernie he's Moses. He didn't get us to the promised land. He got us to the precipice that we have to find it. But his point, he will have been done.
We will spend 40 years in the desert, but we have been delivered from bondage.
We'll take it from you, buddy. Take a rest for God's sake.
To extend this biblical allegory, I was thinking about like in the terms of the Democrat brain that you've talked about, and this stark generational gap in the Democratic Party between the olds and anyone who's under the age of 40. If you've been a Democrat that long, like you have known nothing but just punishment, discipline, and submission. The rum, sodomy, and the lash. That's it. That's it. And like you
You adopted the Democratic Party. I was born into it, molded by it.
All you know is just like the just cringing subservience, or just like you just negotiate to just get a little better treatment.
Yep.
And I was thinking like
a few more gruel cups in your fucking pen.
And like I was thinking about it in terms of like a World War II POW movement. Where like Bernie and this whole young generation is like the cocky alpha Steve McQueen, like hotshot American officer.
Yeah.
It's like, so, first gets in the camp and it's just like, okay, we got to organize to bust out. We're doing the Great Escape. And then like, all the officers that have been there for years now, the British guys who are just like we've lost 3 guys already trying to break out. Just any attempt will all be punished. Like we just have to have good relations with the commandant.
Right, yeah. Alec Guinness and fucking Bridge on the River Kwai. We got to finish this bridge.
Yeah.
It's so crucial.
We got to finish this bridge to the 21st century.
We've got to give all glory to Emperor Hirohito.
We'll show them the British bridge, even one that aids the Japanese war effort, is superior to that could be done by any Japanese person. That's the Democrat brain mentality. It's just like it's learned helplessness. Yeah, the gimp box. Yeah, they just don't want to get sent to the hole again.
Yeah.
Also, keep this in mind. I really do think that if after Super Tuesday there's only 2 candidates left, it's Bernie and Bloomberg, and Bloomberg says, I'm going to spend $500 million on negative attack ads and all this shit, I think, could Bloomberg, win some delegates and buy some contests? Sure, yeah. But I think he would lose to Bernie. I think midway through that process, Bernie would accrue a majority of pledged delegates simply because Bloomberg has no constituency within the Democratic Party. And as we know from Bernie's favorability ratings, there aren't enough people who are no Bernie, at all, period, who would rally around Bloomberg. No one's ever going to say, "Hey, did you hear about this Bloomberg guy? Pretty exciting, huh?" No, you would vote for him because you got a picture of a corn cob in your Twitter mentions. Like there's something wrong with you. Or you're just like one of the members of the 15% Steyer quotient of people who just vote on whatever's advertised in commercial breaks during Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah. I usually write in Jenny Jones, but this year I'm going with Tom Steyer.
Actually, you know what? Let's just talk about Bloomberg for a second. Okay, I mean, I know you saw the shit of him just like grabbing dogs' faces.
Loves to grab a snout.
It's like when he meets a dog, and there are 2 separate photos of this. When he meets and encounters a dog, he like grabs its upper jaw when his mouth's up and like shakes it like it's a hand, like a handshake.
Normal human behavior.
Which violates some like deep evolution based human behavior in that just approaching a strange dog and putting your hand in its mouth.
This is literally this is the memory of how we domesticated wolves. It's like they come down to smell the meat of the campfire,
Neolithic era.
And you're first you grab your spear, but then you see that their ears aren't down, and then you just reach a hand out on top or down below to smell, to show you're not at that. That is like ingrained. That is like primal human brain. That's how we survive. Fucking Bloomberg. Hello, little doggy. I'll put my head directly in your mouth. Oh, yeah, I've just been eating these bacon bits. Let me put my head directly into your mouth. Alien, not human being.
So again, I think we've established using facts and logic.
But what's
a Bloomberg nomination for the Democratic Party would guarantee a Trump victory. And not only that, not only that, imagine a Trump-Bloomberg matchup.
Oh my
God. The contrast between the two of them is so grotesque and profound. But here's the thing. Bloomberg may win, I would imagine, New York and California, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably both of those states, maybe 1 or 2 other, but the map after that election would look so fucking red. It would just be the absolute solidification of the Democratic Party as a thoroughly rump minority party.
Yes. A party
that has no national cachet whatsoever.
Of upper middle class urban sophisticates.
Yeah, I think that would put states like New Jersey in play if Bloomberg were the nominee. And also, something that, no one's really talked about yet because no one's really addressing the Bloomberg threat is that in many ways, Bloomberg would be an objectively worse president than Trump. Because Bloomberg, one thing about Trump is, he's lazy, which means that, okay, it's dysfunctional. And, occasionally you get like an actual white supremacist like Stephen Miller in there who has his own a pet fucking
Genocide
ethnic
project.
cleansing project. Yeah.
I got a few notes I've been working on. A couple notebooks I can show you.
But otherwise, it's just
The minutes of the WANSI conference.
Otherwise, it's the only effective person has been Mitch McConnell in all these years.
Yes.
Bloomberg, as president, we know that he is an efficiency psychotic. And he has a definite agenda, which is militarizing every fucking police department. Could you imagine what the war on drugs would look like under Michael Bloomberg?
It would include. It would not only would they not legalize weed and maybe psychedelics or whatever under Bernie or whatever,